Since it's usually the other way around, what advice would young people like to give to older folks? Try to remember that your adult children are adults. 100% this. My husband went away for a weekend with some friends. Phil texted me to ask where my husband was and why he wasn't responding to his texts and calls. I told him he was out having fun with friends and was probably out of cell range. He got home super late Sunday night, and Monday afternoon Phil texted us both and said if he did hear from my husband by the end of the day, he was filing a missing persons report. Like, dude, he's a fully grown man. He doesn't live with you. You pay none of his bills. Calm down. Thank you. I can't tell you how frustrating it is to, as a happily married couple, 35M, 36F, get consistently offered advice, opinions, offers, suggestions and questions on our major life events coming up. We're freaking adults, we can do this all on our own, and we've thought about and covered 100% of every possible scenario you're worried about. We're fine. Just stop. Yeah, my parents have been raising someone for over 30 years now. Even though I as the youngest am already an adult, they can't stop themselves from trying to control me. The problem is that as soon as my siblings got semi-independent I appeared, so my parents could still look after someone. Now that I am independent from them, they acknowledge that I am an adult and can make my own choices, but still try to explain everything to me like I am 5 years old. I appreciate their concern, but holy yes, I've been living for over a year virtually on my own, in dorms that I pay for, and I get no money from them. Also in Europe, so free uni, but they still phone me and try to tell me what and how to make dinner, etc. Learn about the technology you use. It's only going to improve and get more advanced. This. I have 2 sets of grandparents, of similar ages. One has kept reasonably up to date with laptops, the internet, Alexa, smartphones, etc. The other has no concept of how to use anything made since the year 1990. Always try to keep fairly up to date with technology. It will make your life so much easier and more enjoyable, and make you much more relatable and accessible to younger relatives too. Seriously. I can't stand the outright dismissal of any technology because back in my day we had to. Like, who the frick cares? This stuff is designed to make your life easier. Yes, you are 80-year-old. Wouldn't you like to just use Siri to call your granddaughter instead of strain your eyes and your arthritis to go through your phone looking for her number? Innovation is how we progress as humans and as a society. When the car was invented, did people say I'm not using that there thing, because back in my day we'd have to walk 30 miles just to get a gallon of milk? I'm not using this as an excuse, but there is a lot of baffling things out there. I don't blame old people for giving up on it, because there's a lot of people out there creating things that can only be used by people like themselves. I'll tell you right now, I built computers and, at least for a good part of my life, I'm pretty good with technology, and to this day I can't freaking figure out iTunes or Discord. They're so unintuitive for me, I have to spend 15 minutes googling how to do something that's going to take 30 seconds to implement. And the next time the next big thing comes out, I'll have to start all over again, because those things are built by people with a different mindset than people in my generation. I've given up on certain popular applications because they're so freaking difficult. Like, for some reason, a lot of applications now require you to run through hoops to turn on off a microphone. I usually don't want mine on, and it's always a tedious exercise to figure it out. And it's difficult, because for the last 20 years all applications basically had a toggle you clicked on to mute unmute. Well, the new generation basically always wants a microphone on, so UI is designed so that this option is low priority. A 14-year-old can figure it out immediately, because every single application they've used has something similar. Meanwhile, I'm used to something that works for me and it no longer does. So, I get why older people give up on technology. It's because the technology used to work for them but no longer does, and it's a greater and greater investment of energy to use it. And if they have a solution already in place that works for them, why would they change? Do you think, oh, it's so much faster and you get so many more benefits, but to them it's I have to spend extra time and energy to get a bunch of benefits I probably don't need and I'm using it in a different way than most people do, so the time savings are erased. Fuck it. Apostrophe. Try turning it off and on again. Instructions unclear. Turned off life support machine. They are not like US, MOS. Don't believe everything you read on the internet. Apostrophe. I don't believe that this statement is true. What's funny about this one is I grew up and started college in the 90s when the internet was first becoming a thing. Adults looked at the internet as just another toy, a fun waste of time, and warned us not to believe what we read there and to be careful who we talk to and all that. It was hard to source stuff for papers as there was emphasis on credible sources and everyone knew what was on the internet was crap. Oh, how times have changed. Mum, stop believing all the crap you see on the internet. Mum, those aren't credible sources, and stop talking to those people cause they aren't who they say they are. Stop aiming every young person as naive and blind to the world. It's very frustrating to express an opinion and then be told, oh, but you're young. You won't think that way when you're older. Apostrophe. This challenge between youth and age is never going away. The reason we old farts think this is because we see our former selves in the way you are thinking. Only a-holes will try to point it out, though. It's not generally such a good idea to give advice to people when they are not asking for it. Sometimes, not even when they are. I hate that in my 40s that some of this is coming home to me. It'll catch up to you. Yeah, it has. You'll understand when you're older. Yeah, frick off. You were right and now I do. And of course the big one. You'll understand when you're a parent. It's tragically hilarious how true all this bulls turns out to be. I'm young. I got married at 20, right as I graduated college. I've had random old people who find out I'm married tell me I've made the biggest mistake of my life by getting married young. It's incredibly rude. They don't know me, they don't know my husband, and they definitely don't know anything about our relationship. I understand the commitment we made. I understand we're meant to grow together. I get it. So stop telling me I've made a horrible mistake just because you're 85 and haven't slept with your spouse in 10 years. I freaking hate this. The whole I'm older and have more experience so everything you say is naive and you're just young and stupid and you think the way you do because you're young. Receiving these reactions actually have lowered my confidence and self-esteem for a very long time, and I was unable to accept my own judgment, and berated myself for being young and stupid. Didn't want to share my opinions because people are just going to think I'm going and stupid. These reactions have stopped me from being myself in the past because I would start reacting to myself like, oh, I'm just young and inexperienced so I shouldn't bother saying anything. Yo. Fuck that. Absolutely frick that noise. I've finally learned something. Hells yes, I'm young and stupid and naive. Let me be young and stupid and not give a flying frick. That's how older people judge me. I'd rather say what I want to when I feel I need to and be judged as young and stupid than constantly hold myself back from participating in the world. Maybe I am young and naive. I definitely am. But I finally stopped caring about people thinking that's what I am, and it's so goddamn freeing. Keep challenging yourself and try new things. Don't be sedentary. Related to this, my granddad told me his greatest regret about retirement was thinking he didn't need new friends. It's like a second wave with retirement and what happens when you leave school and when you start having kids. Your whole social scene changes when you retire, and a lot of older people don't know how or don't think they need to make new friends. Video games. Say it. It doesn't hurt. It isn't just Mario anymore. It can be a social club, or an action movie that you control the plot of. I know you enjoy playing games. You taught me how to play games and have fun. Give video a try. Play is good for health. Fun is good for health. When my consoles were hooked up in my parents' living room, my dad would sometimes sit down and watch me play. He said he loved watching me play my movies. He knew they were games, but to him they were movies. I told him about Red Dead Redemption and he said it sounded awesome, but he didn't want to hear about it any more than I'd told him cause he thought it sounded awesome and he didn't have the time to dedicate to them at the time. I miss playing games with my dad. He once said that, while I was playing Burnout, it was a game about my brother because he doesn't think he's a good driver. Sorry for the formatting. I'm on Mobley and my hands are freezing. It's an especially good way to interact with friends who lives far away. Most of my best friends have moved away, but I spend way more time with them online on Discord while playing games than the few who still remain in my hometown. I feel way more engaged in their lives than the ones who live close. Google before you post. Believe something. Using DuckDuckGo, of course. Wisdom is not an automatic result of age. Some of the most interesting things I've ever heard are from old people, but so is almost all the most racist, homophobic, misogynistic stuff. Be humble. Very few people really grow up. Adults are just children, some of which control themselves more. Far from all. Don't assume everyone's an idiot for not sharing your experiences. I was young once completely misses the fact that you were young in a different place at a different time under different circumstances, and you shouldn't expect me to have internalized what you internalized as a child for the same reasons I wouldn't expect a rural Idahoan to know what life is like in the projects. The beautiful thing about that, though, is that it goes in both directions. I see a lot of older people turn closed-minded and spiteful simply because every attempt they make at genuinely understanding a complex social issue is met with accusations of intolerance. I think everybody just needs to walk into a discussion fully aware that they're one person out of billions, and that their individual experience isn't even a sliver of everyone else's. Your adult children don't want to do a bunch of chores every time they come visit. Of course they should help you. But if your kids want to hire and pay for someone to do these things, please let them. If you insist, it will make them less inclined to visit. Stop firing the kid who cuts your gray because your son does it better than him. Start getting rid of stuff. Spend 5 minutes a day clearing out one drawer at a time. Ask your children and grandchildren to come label or take the things they want. Don't force your old furniture, dishes, knickknacks, etc. on your family just because you spent a lot of money on them long ago or because they are sentimental to you. They don't want it. If you don't start doing this now, you are sentencing them to a monumental task later on. This seems personal, lol. Especially number 1. Number 2, Jesus Christ. The amount of S that piles up because it had value at one point is absurd. There are still baby clothes from when I was a kid stashed in the attic. Someone at Goodwill could really use those. God forbid I try to remove things from my mother's house. And books. So many books. Read them and pay them on unless they're really good or signed by the author. My grandmother's Crown Vic from 1991 is still sitting in my mom's driveway rusting because it was grandma's car. It hasn't been driven since 2004, just sitting there making the garage full of crap inaccessible. I'm afraid for when my mom dies and I have to order industrial dumpsters to clear the house. Arguing ice and disrespect. Why didn't you do X? Because why? Why are you always arguing with me? Apostrophe. Stop trying to suggest to us what to do with our lives and ask about what we want to do instead. Sure, you probably know more about a certain field than us, but we're not telling you to go find a different job cause we don't think you should be doing it. A younger person having a different view than you does not necessarily mean that that person is ignorant or that they don't understand how the world really works. Take a moment to understand that they are experiencing a different world than you have and so will often see you differently. Definitely. My dad and I were talking about politics the other day. We agree on most things but disagreed about how a specific situation should be handled. He told me that the media brainwashes younger people to think like I do and that I'm wrong. He couldn't provide any other reason as to why my opinion was wrong. He ended the conversation there before I could object. This one is from the bottom of my heart. I know it's important to respect the elderly and I always do. But the fact you are old doesn't mean you are entitled to treat people with disrespect. For example, when you go to the theater, please turn off your phones. It's disrespectful to everyone who came to enjoy the show and especially to the actors who work really hard. And if you forget to, please do not let IT ring until the other person gives up. I'm sorry, but it really made me angry at the last show I went to before lockdown. I said nothing but it was so disrespectful. Anyway, have a great life and be kind to people. Don't fret, friend. You'll probably never have to worry about being in a movie theater again. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and leave a comment.